Muslim and allied organizations, many of which had ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And those organizations demanded that the Obama administration fire all counterterror trainers who spoke about Islam and jihad, including me. By name, they mentioned me. And that the material, counterterror training material, all be scrubbed of any mention of Islam and jihad in connection with terrorism. John Brennan, who was then the Homeland Security advisor and is now, of course, the head of the CIA, got the letter, and he immediately responded back on White House stationery, as if to emphasize how important the Obama administration considered this question to be, assured the Muslim organizations that he would comply, that not only would counterterror training materials all be scrubbed of any mention of Islam and jihad, and also that counterterror trainers who spoke about Islam would be dismissed, but also that anybody who'd been trained by us and anybody who had used this material would be re-educated. Now, what does all this have to do with Boston? This is what happened. Right around the same time that all this was going down, the Russian authorities told the FBI that Tamerlan Tsarnaev was a follower of radical Islam and a strong believer who had tried to join underground groups in Dagestan. Now, the only underground groups in Dagestan, which is a hotbed of al-Qaeda activity, are jihad terror groups. So they were essentially saying that Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who of course was the main Boston bomber, was a jihad terrorist. The FBI did nothing because they apparently at that time were thinking, well, we're not talking about jihad, we're not thinking about jihad, we're pretending it doesn't exist. And so they made a perfunctory investigation and then let it go.
They dropped the ball, plain and simple.
Yeah.
They had the intel.
No doubt about it.
They had the intel. They didn't act on it. Sounds like what happened in Benghazi with the embassy. The intel was there, nobody acted on it. Which leads me to my next question. Was there intel pertaining to 9/11 that could have prevented the attacks on the Twin Towers, the attacks on the Pentagon, and the downing of the plane in Pennsylvania? Was there intel, and was it ignored?
Yes, of course there was. And it was not so much ignored as it was just, I think the significance of it was not sufficiently appreciated. That what happened was the State Department and our law enforcement apparatus has in general never given the proper weight to jihad terror ideology. For example, if you go all the way back to the taking of the hostages in the U.S. Embassy in Iran in 1979, at the time that the hostages were taken, there was just one book written by the Ayatollah Khomeini anywhere in the State Department. In other words, nobody was really studying the Ayatollah Khomeini. Nobody was really taking him seriously. Nobody thought probably that his regime was going to last. And it's the same thing with the warnings before 9/11 about the planes, and it really every jihad attack that has taken place, there are various signals, various hints, and they're disregarded or they're not given sufficient weight because there is a general emphasis not on investigating those things, but on reaching out in this politically correct fashion to Muslim communities and reassuring them. For example, the Boston Mosque, the Islamic Society of Boston, where the Tsarnaev brothers attended. Robert Mueller, who was then the head of the CIA, was questioned right after the bombing by Congressman Louis Gohmert of Texas as to how much he had investigated the Islamic Society of Boston before the attack. And the answer was not at all. They had only conducted outreach there to reassure Muslims. But the thing is, the Islamic Society of Boston was founded by a man who is in prison now, Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, for funding al-Qaeda. And not only did the Tsarnaev brothers go there, but also Afia Siddiqui, who is now serving 86 years in prison for firing upon American soldiers in the name of Islam and jihad, and Tariq Mahana, who's doing 17 years for aiding al-Qaeda. And so you've got a place where jihad terrorists have been frequenting. You've got a place that was founded by an al-Qaeda financier. On its board was Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who has praised Hitler and said that Muslims should finish his job. And the FBI has never investigated this place. And all they've done is go there for outreach. This just epitomizes for me the unreality and the unrealistic way in which our law enforcement apparatus has approached the jihad threat in general.
What are they waiting for? Another massive attack like 9/11? More American citizens dying?
Well, I think they're certainly going to get that.
Yeah,
They're going to get one. And they're going to get one precisely because of their weakness and fecklessness and inability to face this problem realistically.
In your opinion, sir, what is the best way to face this problem?
Well, I think we have to talk about it honestly. We have to talk about it truly. That instead, every time, as I show in the book, every time there's a jihad terror attack or an uncovered jihad plot, the President of the United States and other Western leaders and whatever local leaders are involved rush to say, this has nothing to do with Islam. This has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. And that's unfortunately not the case, because there have been 23,000 jihad attacks around the world, deadly jihad attacks around the world, since 9/11. And every one of them has had the blessing of a Muslim cleric. Every one of them is justified by its perpetrators with reference to the Quran, the holy book of Islam, and Muhammad, the prophet of Islam. And so it's just not accurate to say that these things have nothing to do with Islam. It just completely ignores the stated reasons by the perpetrators as to why they did what they did. And so it just doesn't make any sense. And ultimately, it's self-defeating because it makes it impossible for us to be able to speak honestly about the nature and magnitude of the threat. And that nothing good can come out of that.
Something has to happen. I can't for the life of me understand where or when in history it was changed from we the people to I the person. The people have the power. Why did we give it away? Why do we refuse to use it? Have we been dumbed down?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's a general problem, but that particularly with regard to this threat, to the jihad threat, people just don't take it seriously because they're not being properly informed. This is another thing that's in the book, that the media is simply not being honest about this and consequently misleading the American people. And so no wonder the American people are not exercised about this as a problem. They don't realize how bad it is. They're probably assuming, no doubt assuming, that the our law enforcement officials are on the job and are dealing with it. And to some degree they are, because, of course, John Brennan can't control the thoughts of every FBI agent and keep them from dealing honestly with what he's facing. But there are when it's official government dogma that this is not to be faced realistically, there's going to be bad consequences of that.
Robert, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Thanks very much for joining us. I appreciate you having you here on the show, sir. www.jihadwatch.org. Robert Spencer's my guest. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. My special guest this hour is Robert Spencer. He's the author of Arab Winter Comes to America, The Truth About the War We're In. His website is www.jihadwatch.org. That's www.jihadwatch.org. And I must tell you, Exonation, I was there this evening. It's one heck of a sight. If you want to know the truth, like, as I've said many times before, there's three sides to every story. His side, her side, and the truth. Well, if you go to www.jihadwatch.org, you don't have to worry about his side. You don't have to worry about her side because you're right at the truth. Robert, thanks again for joining us. Great having you here with us. When we look at the world in general, what's happening with the kidnapped girls in Nigeria? Is this just another flexing of the muscles of the terrorist group, saying, "Listen, no matter if you're in England, no matter if you're in America, no matter if you're in Nigeria, we can get you"?
Well, yeah, that's certainly part of it. At the same time, the terrorist group Boko Haram, or the official name of it actually, which is the Party of the People of the Sunnah for Dawah and Jihad. Sunnah is accepted Islamic practice and Dawah is Islamic proselytizing. This group is just acting out its religious imperatives, and it reads the Quran and it sees that a man can have up to 4 wives as well as the captives of his right hand. And the captives of his right hand, those are interpreted in Islamic law as being women who are captured infidels who are pressed into sex slavery. It sounds absurd and obscene to say that that's in a holy book, but it's right in there in chapter 4, verse 3 and chapter 4, verse 24 and elsewhere. And Boko Haram knows that, and they kidnap the schoolgirls for that purpose, and also to strike terror into the hearts of the enemies of Allah, which is a command in chapter 8, verse 60 of the Quran. And so they're acting out specific Quranic imperatives. The world community then recoils and says this is a terrible thing. And I think, well, I'm glad that they're on it, but Boko Haram has been actually committing atrocities for years now in Nigeria. It's not as if they're a new group or this is the first thing they've done. As a matter of fact, they're responsible for the murders of over 2,500 people in Nigeria over the first 3 months of this year alone.
Why isn't the Nigerian government doing something about it? Why haven't they cried for help before now?
Well, the Nigerian government has made a great show over the last few years of having Boko Haram on the run, just like Barack Obama boasts about having Al-Qaeda on the run. And it's even less true for the Nigerian government than it is for Barack Obama. Neither group is on the run. Both groups are advancing aggressively and are more confident than ever, if not more powerful than ever. And so the Nigerian government has wanted to contain this problem on its own, but has proven that it's unable to do so. And so now they're really only asking for help now because of the international attention that has been focused on this.
We hear a lot about Sharia law, and I was wondering if you could give us an encapsulated version of what Sharia law is.
Absolutely. Sharia is the law of Islam. It is a law that covers really every aspect of human life. There's not a thing you can imagine doing as a human being that doesn't have Sharia laws involved in directing Muslims as to how it should be done. And so it covers religious imperatives. It covers how to pray and so on, and how to behave as a Muslim in the mosque and so on. But it also covers every other aspect of life, including the way a political system should be ordered and the way society should be ordered. And as a political and social system, it is in contradiction to U.S. constitutional freedoms. in many important ways. It denies the freedom of speech. Criticism of Islam brings a death penalty. It denies the freedom